It's that spooky time of year in the art room, so let's make a pumpkin patch drawing. Let's draw some practice jack-o'-lanterns for a pumpkin patch. We're going to start by turning our paper horizontal. Make sure it's nice and long, not tall. You have an idea sheet, and you're going to use anything from your bag. I'm using a marker. Feel free to use a marker or a pencil. I'm using my idea sheet to make as many pumpkins as I can. Starting with one that I see, and I'm adding the eyes that I want, the nose, and the mouth. Don't forget a stem for your pumpkin. I'm going to fill my paper up with as many pumpkins as I can. I'm going to make them different sizes, small, medium, and large. I'm going to make them different shapes too. Some are going to be tall and skinny, and others are going to be short and wide. Some might be itty bitty, and some might be pretty large. I'm using line to make the curve of a pumpkin, and then I'm closing it up to make a shape. So I'm using lines and shapes. Lines and shapes are elements of art. Those are things that artists use to make their artwork interesting. We will also be adding texture too. Texture is the way a surface feels or the way it looks like it feels. Do you see some of my stems have lines on them? That is texture. That is to show that the part of the stem might be lumpy or bumpy. You can experiment by using texture on your pumpkins too. Later, you're going to see Miss Dalmy draw lines on some of her pumpkins. That also shows texture. Notice that my pumpkins are not perfect circles or ovals. Most of them are kind of lumpy and bumpy the way real pumpkins look because they are not a perfect shape. This is called an organic shape. Pumpkins are organic shapes because they are vegetables or they occur in nature. They're not like geometric shapes, which are triangles, squares, ovals, and rectangles, but they are made by nature. That means they grow in nature. If you were to look at a real pumpkin patch, you would see lots of different types of pumpkins growing because they are organic shapes. Now, we might be adding some geometric shapes like circles and triangles and squares to make our pumpkin more interesting. We are going to use some of those shapes when we draw the faces because our pumpkins are going to be jack-o'-lanterns. They are going to have faces on them. Try to experiment with different expressions: happy, sad, worried, surprised, silly. Any kind of jack-o'-lantern you want. If you make a mistake, just keep going. This is just practice. Also, you're not going to go as fast as I am. I'm going at super speed so I can show you lots of different ideas in one short video. When you draw your jack-o'-lanterns, take your time. Go nice and slow because you want to do your best. When you think you have enough jack-o'-lanterns on your paper, look again, and I bet you can squeeze in some itty-bitty or skinny jack-o'-lanterns in all of the empty spaces. The goal today is to draw as many pumpkins as you can. Now we are going to use what we practiced to make a final pumpkin patch drawing. You're going to need your practice drawings. You're going to need a Sharpie, maybe a pencil, and your idea sheet. You're going to be using a painting paper today, so it feels a little thicker because later when we add color, we're going to be using some special materials. Make sure you turn your paper horizontal, not like that. Horizontal, there we go, so it's nice and wide. I'm starting my pumpkin with a pencil. You may want to start your pumpkins with a pencil if you feel like you're going to need to erase. So I'm picking my favorite drawings from my practice drawing so that I know that I can be successful with the ones I've tried already. I don't want to try a brand new pumpkin that I didn't practice yet. Today we're using lines and shapes. If you want to use a pencil first, you're going to take your Sharpie after the pumpkins or after all of your pumpkins and trace over them or outline them. You're going to go nice and slow so that you can cover those pencil lines with a Sharpie because we don't want any pencil lines showing. When you're using your Sharpie, you're not going to color a whole bunch of shapes in. Notice I'm coloring in just my eyeballs and maybe making some dots for freckles. Most of your shapes on your pumpkins need to be left white so that we can add lots of different colors later. So most of your shapes will be left white. If you're feeling like you're ready to use a Sharpie without a pencil first, go for it. You can start by using a Sharpie. Just know that if you make a mistake, you can turn it into a beautiful oops. And that's perfect for today because pumpkins are not perfect. They're lumpy and bumpy and bruised. They're not perfect ovals or circles because they are organic shapes. So it's okay if you make some mistakes with your Sharpie. Again, I'm only coloring in a little bit, maybe the dark part of the mouth so that my vampire teeth can show through. Most of my shapes on this pumpkin are white. We're not doing a whole bunch of coloring. Remember that your pumpkins need to be small, medium, large. Some need to be tall, some need to be short, some need to be itty bitty, and some need to be so skinny they can squeeze into tiny spaces because we are creating as many pumpkins as we can. We're filling up the paper with so many pumpkins because we're also using the element of space. Space is how you arrange your objects on your paper. When you have empty space, that is just plain white space where there's not a shape. We don't want to have a lot of empty space today or negative space. We want to have a lot of positive space. That means we want to have as many pumpkins as we can. When we take our lines and we close them up to make shapes, we're using the element of shape, and organic shapes is what pumpkins are. Make sure that you choose your favorite ones, and the ones you choose are all kinds of different expressions: happy, sad, bored, silly, angry. Lots of different variety when you're drawing your pumpkins. If you're adding some curvy lines to your pumpkin on the pumpkin's head, you are using what is called the element of form to make your pumpkin look more 3D or more round. Because pumpkins in real life, they're not flat, they are round. And so when you add those curvy lines, you are making it look 3D and you're using form. I'm also drawing some texture lines on my leaf right now. Texture is the way a surface feels or the way the surface looks like it feels. So when you add lines to your pumpkin stem or lines to your leaf, you are showing that your drawing may feel like something might be lumpy, bumpy, or scratchy. So I love using texture lines. I'm going to continue filling up my paper. When you think you are done, take a second look and see if you can squeeze in a few extra pumpkins, especially if you make them really skinny or itty bitty. I can't wait to see your finished drawing, so sit back, enjoy the rest of the video, listen to the music, get inspired, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with on your spooky pumpkin drawings.